I read a lot of news, and it always shocks me to see how the New York Times purports itself and pretends to be a news organization. It is so clearly just propaganda. I'm going to show you in this article, we're going to read it together. I will show you how nearly every paragraph tells a lie against Trump and in support of Biden, as exactly as if it was run by the Democrat campaign. The New York Times, there's no air between it and what a political party wants. It ought to be under opinion, but it's not. Welcome to Doug in Exile. I'm Doug Tenaple. This is where the happy patriots are. And I hope to teach you guys how this works. This is how you gaslight an entire country. This is my normal Google search. I just look at headlines. Here's CNN video: Trump fires back at Biden in Iowa speech. And then here's the Washington Post: Biden in Valley Forge speech hits Trump hard as threat to democracy. I just want you guys to use your imagination and tell me, do you think Biden actually came off as hitting Trump hard in a speech? Because that's propaganda. That's the Washington Post. It has to do with them being owned by Jeff Bezos, who's Amazon. It doesn't have anything to do with what Biden actually said. And then here's the big one: New York Times. Clashing over January 6th, Trump and Biden show reality is at stake in 2024. Now, that's a weird headline, because this is about the Democrats completely gaslighting you against the facts that go on Trump's side. So they're not going to present any of Trump's facts. They're going to go with all Democrat gaslighting. Now, the only way you could accuse me of doing the same thing on behalf of the Republican Party, and I'm certainly guilty of some of it, is if you can show that I can't back up my statements with actual facts. And you'll see what I mean as we go. I just want to notice, here we are on the front page: Nikki Haley, the proven leader who will win. Let's go. She's not going to win, but I just want to let you know that she's buying space at the New York Times. Thank you. That's Democrat Nikki Haley pretending to be a Republican, buying space at Democrat New York Times. That's where her constituency is. And then here's the headline: clashing over January 6th, Trump and Biden show reality is at stake in 2024. In dueling sets of speeches, Donald Trump and President Biden are framing the election as a battle for the future of democracy. True. With Mr. Trump brazenly, that's an adverb, casting Mr. Biden as the true menace. Oh, is that a brazen move for him to cast Biden as the true menace? Look at the guy. Look what he's done. Rarely in American politics has a leading presidential candidate made such grave accusations about a rival, warning that he is willing to violate the Constitution. This is what Biden has said of Trump, claiming that he is eager to persecute political rivals, calling him a dire threat to democracy. Those arguments have come from President Biden's speeches, including his forceful address on Friday, which we already know is not forceful, as that is, he barely survived walking across the stage, as he hammers away. Look at these words they're choosing to use. He's strong, he's vigorous, he's forceful, he hammers. Don't believe your eyes, as he hammers away at his predecessor. But they are also now being brazenly wielded, oh, so brazen, by Donald Trump, the only president to try to overthrow an American election. Very interesting. See, of course, New York Times, they could asterisk that by saying, and Biden, by the way, took Trump off the ballot in Colorado and Maine. 3 years after the former president's supporters stormed the Capitol, Mr. Trump and his campaign are engaged in an audacious attempt to paint Mr. Biden as the true menace to the nation's foundational underpinnings. Now we'll give you a fact. What other president has ever had a larger redistribution of wealth where he tried to forgive student loans? He went in and just said, with a caveat of a pen, with a presidential order, He couldn't get enough votes in the Congress, which is where the purse is kept in America. That's where you're supposed to conduct budgets. It's all done there. It is not under the president's power. And this president goes in and says, I'm going to forgive billions and billions. That's a foundational underpinning and an example I will give to prove that Biden has done it. Way worse than Trump vowed to turn political opponents into legal targets. Again, this so applies to Biden, I don't even know how you can even jokingly say it applies to Trump. He vowed to turn political opponents into legal targets, which I think is good. He needs to do it, and suggested that the nation's top military general should be executed. Again, this is about Milley, the guy who called over to China, who were worried about Trump going nuclear. And he said, don't worry. If Trump attacks China, I will warn you. I will call you in advance and warn you, is what he said to China, our adversary. And that is something for which we would executed people for before. It's treason. The eagerness from each man to paint the other is an imminent threat, signals that their potential rematch this year will be framed as nothing short of a cataclysmic battle for the future of democracy. I believe it's true. Even as Mr. Trump tries to twist the very idea to suit his own ends. See, they couldn't just leave it at a neutral statement that we would all agree with, that this is a cataclysmic battle for the future of democracy. Very true. Even as Mr. Trump tries to twist the very idea to suit his own ends. Well, Biden's trying to twist the idea to suit his own ends. You dummy, you hack, you opinion piece, you opinion as news, you yellow journalist. I'm a barely literate comic book artist. I make comic books and video games, and I'm a better journalist, more even-handed, more full of actual facts than the New York Times front page. That's not how good I am, ladies and gentlemen. In case you think I'm trying to pump myself up, that's how bad the New York Times is. They're worse journalism than written by like a high school comic book artist or a video game designer, a cartoonist. On Friday evening at his own rally in Sioux City, Iowa, Mr. Trump fired back, calling Mr. Biden's remarks pathetic fear-mongering. And again, accusing him without any evidence. See, they have to put that line in there to protect Biden. And again, accusing Biden without any evidence. Just in case you thought, well, does he have any evidence? No. The New York Times says he has zero evidence that Biden is fear-mongering. Zero. I don't even know how you'd scientifically quantify that. I only know they don't have a right to say it, unless this was just a rampant political Democrat purchase hit piece, without any evidence of wielding federal law enforcement to attack his political opponents. My only question is so they're saying he had no evidence that Biden is wielding federal law enforcement to attack his political opponents. That's Jack Smith, Chutkin, Fani Willis, Department of Justice, Merrick Garland, Chris Wray, Mayorkas. Who is wielding federal laws to attack his political opponents? Trump has, 90? It's 4 indictments with 91 counts or 100 counts to put him away for 150 years. That is the definition of it. And New York Times goes, I see nothing. I don't know what he's talking about on this wielding federal law enforcement to attack his political opponents. Every lawsuit, every case, every jury, every judge, every prosecutor was appointed by a Democrat. The definition of political opponent. Now, the New York Times cannot state those facts because this is all opinion and it's wrong opinion. It's actually a lie. This is gaslighting. They've weaponized the government, and he's saying, I'm the threat to democracy, Mr. Trump said incredulously. They could just say Trump said. He said incredulously. I'll fix it. Here, I'll fix it, New York Times. They've weaponized the government, and he's saying, I'm a threat to democracy. Mr. Trump said incredulously. The New York Times added gaslightingly. The early maneuvering by Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump points to an election that will be fought on extraordinary ground. While the economy abortion rights and ages of the candidates are all expected to be central campaign issues. Both men argue that what is fundamentally at stake is whether the country's nearly 250-year-old system of government endures. That is true because the Democrats want to end it. Trump does not want to end the way we've done politics for 250 years. He is not trying to take a opponent's name off a ballot. He is not trying to excuse billions of dollars worth of student loan, which the president has never had the ability to control those purse strings. That's for Congress. We've never had a non-existent border, probably since the beginning of our country, the southern border. We have a non-existent border where people are free to come across the border and disperse themselves within our citizenship. That is under Biden. They removed the policing and stopping of immigrants at the border. That is the very definition of what it means to be American, is being undermined and redefined by the Bidens in a radical way that hasn't been done in our 250-year history. As Mr. Biden heads into the final year of his term, his worries that Mr. Trump could stoke more political violence. He's never stoked political violence once, although Biden and Kamala Harris have on Black Lives Matter riots. More political violence have helped persuade him to make the strength of American democracy the fundamental question of the reelection, according to a longtime aide. So Biden is now going, look, this threat to America is so great and so resonant that we're going to run with that as our campaign against Trump. Because Biden actually knows, in spite of many Democrats caring about abortion or same-sex marriage or 2 wars, he knows he has no way, that he has no way to articulate it. They go, look, just one message. Just keep going back to what Trump did on January 6th. Do you remember that, right, Joe? Because you were conscious back then, right? This is before you lost all the gray matter. Yeah, I remember January 6th. And that's what we're going to run on, right? Yeah, January 6th, bad, Trump, bad. But notice they're not running on the economy. I think they've dropped that. Biden kept saying how good the economy was. Karine Jean-Pierre in America just said, nope, you're a liar. Don't even try that stuff on us. That's why his polls are so low. The only question is, will his polls turn around with their full-time media campaigning through the news, through New York Times, and through all of social media, all the social medias we click on? Can they turn those numbers around to convince them that Trump is a violent insurrectionist and Biden, who takes his name off the ballot, is not to be seen, or not, whatever? Look at your own checkbook. Nothing he did, surrendering in Afghanistan, losing $80 billion worth of equipment to terrorists, for giving $4 billion back to Iran for them to end up using it to strike Israel. The stakes are especially personal for Mr. Trump, given the 91 felony charges against him. Oh, you think? Many of them stemming from his attempt to cling to power. No, none of them doing that. That's literally your opinion, and it's actually a wrong lie of an opinion. They stem from he ran for office, and there's no other way the Democrats can beat him. You too could be jailed for life as an innocent man, Mr. Trump warned supporters in a fundraising appeal on December 20th. Also true, completely true. We see through the Twitter files. We see through the Department of Justice and FBI targeting pro-lifers, spying on Catholics, pro-lifers, and accusing them of insurrection and jailing them without a trial, without a jury, without a lawyer. This is what America has come to, and every American knows it. And every American is not buying what the New York Times is trying to cover up. So it's not without evidence. There's lots of evidence. And most Americans should rightly be afraid of this government. This government is not our friend. We know it. The IRS, they will bust down your door. They will, like we did on the video with Harrison Floyd yesterday, the FBI will trail you, touch you and your kid without presenting their credentials. Trump is going to win. Biden's going to lose. This news is mostly about how terrible the New York Times is. And I love presenting you guys with terrible news, like The View, like CNN, like MSNBC, because they go out there with a straight face as if this is respectful. And this is scandalously shameful. laugh at them, mock them. We're going to beat them. Are you on board? Give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment below on what you think. If you want to help this channel, spread the link around. I'm Doug in Exile. Thank you.